I came up with an email formula, I call it, or a structure, a template that's worked really, really well for me. And it's very contrarian in the sense that most gurus say that you should only have one call to action in an email. And I don't do that. I have what's called a newsletter and has multiple offers in the email. And as a result, I can promote people more often if I'm promoting somebody. And I do really well with it. I can match people who have lists much larger than me. And the net result of that is that I get these people with large lists to promote me back. And that's where the success comes in, is partnering with other people, getting people to partner to promote you back.
Hello and welcome to Marketing Speak. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer. It is my pleasure to have Ellen Finkelstein with us. Ellen teaches online entrepreneurs how to get their knowledge out of the world and how they can maximize their income with email marketing. Ellen's become well known for her contrarian and wildly successful email newsletter formula, which she uses to rank highly on affiliate leaderboards. Ellen, it's so great to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, so we know each other through a mastermind we're both in called Joint Venture Mastermind, JVMM. And I just wanted to have you on the show. And so thanks for coming on. If you could maybe share a little bit of your backstory of how you got into email marketing, into marketing in general, how you got into the online world, and maybe some crazy detours along the way, if you'd like to throw in some fun trivia.
So sure. I would say that first of all, the reason I started online was because I live in a small town in Iowa that's not close to anything. I can't go anywhere. So I like to say I'm 4.5 hours from St. Louis, 4.5 hours from Chicago, 4.5 hours from Minneapolis, and 4.5 hours from Omaha, middle of nowhere. And the second thing was this: when I started, I had two small children. So I had like this double reason for being online. And it was a great choice for me. It worked really well. But I started actually by writing computer books for Wiley. It started out as IDG Books, and I wrote books on AutoCAD and PowerPoint, and then also McGraw-Hill. So, yeah. And so PowerPoint, AutoCAD, and Flash were the main topics, but there were some others as well.
And these were big books too, right?
Yeah. Well, physically, yeah, the AutoCAD book ended up being like over 1,200 pages.
1,200 pages. Wow.
It was called AutoCAD Bible, and it's their big comprehensive series. They have them in a lot of different topics. And I don't write it anymore. I'm kind of happy it was gone. But it went through 17 editions, and it was a bestseller for years. And it was translated into 14 languages. And anyway, all of that. But it was I don't do anything with that AutoCAD anymore. It's a drafting program, but I do a lot with PowerPoint still. And of course, Flash, the other big topic, doesn't exist anymore. So PowerPoint became one part of my business. And so when you're an author, at the time I was doing this was 1997 and onward, it started having this concept of having an author platform. And an author platform meant you had your own website and your own email list. And basically you did some marketing. Now, before that, the publishers were supposed to do the marketing. But it turned out, especially as the online world grew, that they weren't very good at it. They never really figured out like online marketing. And so you sort of had to do it yourself. So I started a website and I started an email list. I started blogging on AutoCAD and PowerPoint. And as I got this list, I realized that I could try to maybe write my own book, publish my own book. Now, that book that we just mentioned was a $50 book, but on Amazon it was discounted to $30. And I got 10% royalty of the wholesale price. So that was like 10% of $15 is $1.50. So that's how royalties work. Now, the three books together, did well for me. They gave me the down payment for my house. I'm not complaining about it, but still, you're getting a really small percentage of it. And so I wrote my first book, which was 101 Tips Every PowerPoint User Should Know. And I sold it for around $20. And I got 98% of that money, except for the PayPal fee. I got it. And so I started doing that. That was like the first time I actually sold something online, was writing an ebook. It was a natural extension to what I had been doing.
So at that point, this was your first self-published book, but you had how many books, including separate editions? Because that's a whole book in itself, just doing a new edition.
Maybe including separate editions, I don't know, 30 or something.
Wow.
It was a lot. It was a lot of books. It was
A
a lot of books.
prolific writer. Yeah.
Yeah, usually I have a screenshot of my bookshelf in the back and you see all the books, But anyway, so yes. And but writing my own book was just really interesting. And this was before Amazon, Kindle publishing, and so it was a PDF. It was just a PDF that people could buy and download, and it was just an eye opener for me. And so I started doing that, and I wrote a book on PowerPoint, self-published a book on PowerPoint, also a PDF. That was the one I was talking about. I did some other things as well. So then I decided to teach a class in my little town because there weren't a lot of jobs about how to do what I did, like how to create a website, how to build an email list, and how to write ebooks and sell stuff. And so I created ChangeTheWorldMarketing.com as an example of how you do it. Like I created this new website as I was showing them what to do. And that ended up becoming like my main business, ChangeTheWorldMarketing.com. And so on that website, I teach people all sorts of things about online marketing, how to create your message, how to build your audience, how to actually create content, like online courses and so on. But lately I've been focusing, as you mentioned in the bio, on email marketing. And I came up with an email formula, I call it, or a structure, a template that's worked really, really well for me. And it's very contrarian in the sense that most gurus say that you should only have one call to action in an email. And I don't do that. I have what's called a newsletter and has multiple offers in the email. And as a result, I can promote people more often if I'm promoting somebody. And I do really well with it. I can match people who have lists much larger than me. And the net result of that is that I get these people with large lists to promote me back. And that's where the success comes in, is partnering with other people, getting people to partner to promote you back. And it's worked really nicely for me, partly because I get results from it, but also I discovered, and the first time this happened, it kind of blew me away. I had a subscriber write back and say, "Thank you for giving us so many resources." And I went, all I'm doing is like selling stuff. It's like a list of things. Some of them are free webinar or a free ebook or whatever it is, but it's all promotion. And I saw that over and over again, that the subscribers, they could choose what they were interested in as opposed to getting from somebody one email on one thing. And if you think about it, as a receiver of emails from somebody, if every email only has one call to action, you go day after day after day, this isn't applicable to me, this isn't applicable to me. And eventually you unsubscribe, because what are you going to do? Read all 365 emails over the year just to find, the 2 or 3 that are applicable to you? So people like my format because they can easily see there's something of value for everybody every single day. And so that encourages them to open it, and they just like it. So it's good for me, it's good for my partners, and it's good for my subscribers.
Yep. And how many subscribers do you have?
I have about 10,700 and Change the World Marketing. I also have a PowerPoint list that's a little larger than that, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have multiple email lists, and you've been at this for a number of years. How many emails do you send to each of these lists? And are you sending just the newsletter, or are you sending drip campaigns and trigger-based emails as well?
Yeah, so when somebody signs up for something new, they get a series of autoresponders that are automated, that are dripped out automatically, that's relevant just to what they signed up. And I don't put them on my main list until they're finished with that, because I'm emailing every day, a broadcast every day to the Change the World. I'll just focus on the Change the World Marketing. So I'm emailing every day to that list, to everybody, to everybody on the list. But if somebody signs up for something new, I don't want to get them to get my dripped emails, my autoresponders, and my daily emails. It's just too much. So I wait until they finish kind of digesting what they've signed up for. And then in the last one, I say, now you're going to get my daily email. So that's how I do it.
And do you find that people are receptive to getting a daily email? Because I can't even think of really many, if any, daily emails that I get. I think I've pretty much unsubscribed from all of them. Even weekly ones, I've unsubscribed from many of them. So that's a lot. That's a lot of email when you're already probably getting tons of emails from all sorts of.
Yes, so it
Um,
can be a lot,
yeah.
but people know now that first of all, they know they don't have to read the whole email. My emails are long because there could be anywhere from 5 to 10 items in them, and so they know there's a table of contents at the beginning. It's one of my secrets. So I have start with a story, and then they go down to the table of contents and they look and see if something's interesting, and if it's not, they just delete that email and they'll look the next day. But if there is something interesting, then they can go, each of those items in the table of contents is expanded below and they're numbered. So if they like number 2, they go down to number 2, read more about it, and either click or they don't click. So I make it very easy. And then every day I have a daily hot tip. And there are a couple of people who've told me that they save the tips. And so even just for that, they could. Today I wrote something about intellectual property and valuing your intellectual property and keeping it backed up and keeping it, safe and maybe copywriting it and so on like that. And just something valuable for everybody, that especially my list, which is, mostly beginners, but they're content creators. They might be coaches. They might be consultants. They might be, they're creating a course, whatever it is. They're experts and they have some knowledge they want to get out to the world, but they're not experienced business people, especially. And that's an important piece of information because very often they don't think of themselves as a business really, and they forget some of those more formal things that business owners, know about. And so it's valuable information for them. And so I just make sure there's something like that every day for people.
Mm.
I know a lot of people who send out daily emails, and I would say that the people who do well with it are are good writers. You just want to read the story. Ray Brame is an example of one of them, and he just creates these amazing stories, and you want to read them, even if I don't necessarily want to get down to the bottom where his offer is, where his call to action is, but his stories are really good. There are a couple of other people as well like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually had Ray on my other podcast on Get Yourself Optimized to talk about intuition.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard him talk about intuition, but
He's a phenomenal, really fascinating guy. And yeah, his story, I don't know if you've ever heard about it, but he was able to communicate with his 8-year-old self as an adult. And he had forgotten all about this story of, or this experience that he had when he was 8 years old. He was going through a particularly tough time, and he heard a voice in his head saying, I'm you in the future. Everything's going to be okay, and I love you. And it really gave him solace, comfort at that time. He was going through a very difficult time, and he forgot all about it. And then decades later, he's at a Hoffman process seminar, and the instructor is like, all right, we're going to do this exercise. I want you to think of a time when you were 8 years old, and just, I want you to say these simple statements to your 8-year-old self. And you guessed it, it was exactly those statements. And it all flooded back his memory of that, receiving that reassurance when he was a little kid. It's just like mind blowing. So yeah, that was in that episode.
that is good. Ray is an amazing storyteller in general,
Yeah.
and he does, like he wrote once. He was trying to promote me, and he was also promoting Danny Inney, who is the head of Miracy and teaches people how to create online courses. And he starts the email off saying, "I'm having a really hard time deciding, who to promote between Ellen Finkelstein and Danny Inney. But you know who's not having a hard time at this at all? Ellen, because she's promoting not only her own launch, but she's promoting Danny's launch, and she's doing really well on the leaderboard on Danny's launch. So she's, managing to do both." So he just kind of took this little funny circular thing about him promoting me and Danny and me promoting myself, and he took the circular thing and made a great story out of it.
That's cool. So, what is it about being on leaderboards, like affiliate leaderboards? Why is it such a thing? It's not just for vanity. Like, you can get big prizes, like cars and things like that, if you're on the top of a leaderboard.
I think that it's definitely not just for vanity. So yes, you can win prizes. The last couple of weeks, I got $100 for 2 weeks on Christina Hill's thing for being number 5 on her leaderboard. But so there's some can be some money. But so first of all, from a receiving end, I find, because I'm a little competitive, that it urges me on. So if I'm, number 6 and I want to be number 5, I'll send out an extra email or do some social media. It encourages me, which is why people create the leaderboards to do that.
Mm.
But the other thing is that other people on the leaderboard notice, and so then people contact you and say, "Let's partner." And of course, I do the same thing. Or if there's somebody who's doing really well on a leaderboard and I don't know that person, I'll ask the person who's publishing the leaderboard, "Would you introduce us?" And then I have a great hey, you were number 2 and I was number 3 on so and so's leaderboard. Let's talk about working with each other. And so it's just the best place possible to find good partners.
Yeah, it's awesome. And what have been your most lucrative and maybe also most fun affiliate relationships or campaigns that you've participated on?
So Danny Innie was an interesting one. When I first joined that mastermind, we talked about JVMM. He called me up because I was new in it and asked if I would promote him. And I knew who he was, and I knew he had a big list, and I was like floored that he would even ask me to promote. But he'll ask anybody to promote; he doesn't mind. And so I went all out for him, and it turned out that with that topic, I was able to promote both to my Change the World marketing list and to my PowerPoint list, because a lot of the PowerPoint people are using it for training, so they're creating online courses. And I have a LinkedIn list around for training managers, and a group, and another LinkedIn group around PowerPoint. And so I had a lot of people that I was able to contact. So I just went all out with him. And I ended up number 2 on his opt-ins, like 978 opt-ins or something, which is crazy good. It's really good. The best I've ever done. But I worked really hard on it. And the only person who went ahead of me was Josh Turner, whose list was probably 10 times the size of mine or something like that, So I did really well. And the reason for me doing this was not for the commissions, but so that Danny would promote me back, because he was a big fish from my perspective. And so that's what happened. That's what I got. And so now, all of Miracy, it's several kind of little companies put together, but they have one JV manager, and they kind of aggregate stuff. And so they promote me, several times a year, and I promote them, for their launches. And so I have this infinite supply of people coming to my offers from him, and other people as well. And so that's an amazing thing to happen. If you have an offer that promotes, that converts well, you're going to do really well with that. Mm-hmm. So that's really precious. So that was my kind of big start, and then after I did that, I was able to turn that into a couple of other things as well. And people noticed, everybody who was on that leaderboard noticed. And so it was just kind of made my reputation for doing a good job promoting people. And I do feel that a lot of people, solopreneurs, are afraid to partner, and they don't. And you just can't grow big without partnering. You can't just have your own list and promote the same stuff over and over again to your list. There are diminishing returns after a while. So you really have to branch out and do that partnering.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so when you send out emails to promote an offer, so let's say it's an affiliate relationship where you're going to get, I don't know, some sort of payout for opt-ins or payout for the tripwire or whatever is being sold.
Yeah, mostly just for whatever's being sold. Yeah. I mean, occasionally there'll be like that prize for opt-ins, but usually the big commissions will come from the actual sale.
Right.
And the thing that's nice about it also is that I'm not really responsible for the sale that much. So I can recommend it, but by bringing in opt-ins, then the person who's selling, who's doing the launch or whatever it is, they're the one that does the webinar and they make the pitch. And so even though I can support that, I can offer a bonus, which is a kind of little affiliate thing that you can do, and encourage it. But I don't have to be the heavy salesperson. So that's a nice thing.
Yeah. So do you use their swipe files and copy and paste the email copy that they've provided and just hit send? Or do you handcraft your own emails promoting the offer and put it into your own voice and make it very specific to your audience?
So I copy and paste in the swipe copy and then I edit it to make it in my own voice. So I partly because usually the people who wrote the copy are better copywriters than I am, they're good. Usually it's good. Sometimes, fairly often, I would say it's too salesy for me. So I do a lot of toning down. I don't like just today, I was doing something like that. And, all these words that were bold and capitalized and emojis. And I just get rid of all of that stuff because it's just not my style. And I don't feel like my list will really appreciate that. They just want to hear what it is. And if there's something personal that I can add to it, then I will. Absolutely. Whether it's a story or how I know the person or, anything that I can add. I do create a kind of theme in my emails based on my story and my tip. And so sometimes I can connect that. So remember, I'm doing multiple offers in an email. I can't create everything in a theme because I'm just going to promote what I'm going to promote. But if I can bring in that theme, then I will. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of creates a thread that goes throughout the whole thing. And that also kind of gets people to click. I have some other, all sorts of secrets about how to get people to click and open it.
Please share some more. And I'm guessing that you send multiple emails to promote an offer and not just a single one.
Right. So that's right. And that's really the secret to my success. So let's say you have somebody is doing a launch and most of the people who are promoting that launch are doing solo emails that with one call to action. So, and that launch is, let's say, lasts 2 weeks. Okay, from the first opt-in to, the cart closing, as they say. And so most people will send out 3 emails. Okay, but if it's 2 weeks, I'm going to send out 14 emails because it's every single day. Now, it's never the only thing in there, but I'm going to repeat it over and over and over again. And, usually a launch has these different parts to it. So there could be like a free PDF, and then there's a webinar, and then finally there's the sale of the actual whatever they're offering. So I just do it more often, and that's how I can do better than people with lists that are bigger than mine.
That makes sense.
So yeah, that's a little secret. Yeah.
So how many parts to an email newsletter or like a daily email will you have? Like 10, 20?
I've never done 20. I try not to have, around 10 is good, but sometimes I don't have that much to promote. Sometimes I have to ask people like, hey, give me something to promote. I try to keep some evergreen things going that I can promote at any time. So it just depends what's happening. September, for example, seems to be a big month for launches. So I had a lot of things there. And this week I don't have as many. But so I start with a story. And then I have the table of contents, and then I have the daily hot tip, and then however many items, are there, including a PS, which might be like today, it was a link to my latest YouTube video. And so that'll be my PS. And that also goes in the table of contents. So 8 to 10 items in it. And again, it works because of the table of contents, because people just scan through really quickly. They read the story, they scan the table of contents, and they see if there's something that's interesting to them. So they have choice, they have agency, and people really like that.
Cool. How long does it take to write an email newsletter?
Because I'm doing a lot of repeating, I'm just cloning yesterday's email, and I have to come up with the story. And it's often based on like what I did yesterday. I kind of joke that all my emails start with yesterday because it's sort of like, yesterday I did this and I connect it to some business principle, but whatever it might be. So I would say, because it's mostly there, the most it would take me would be an hour to an hour and a half. That would be the highest amount of time, especially if there's several new things that I kind of need to check. But it's simple enough now that I have a VA who puts it on my calendar and another one who takes all the stuff from my calendar and she puts it in. So she actually creates the email for me based on yesterday's email. She clones it, she looks at the calendar, and she puts things in, and she takes the swipe copy like straight from what's in the calendar. There's a link to the swipe copy that they give you, and then she puts it in there. And so I'm just doing that rewriting piece of it. So sometimes it's half an hour. It's not that long, and my business is based around email marketing, and is usually the first thing I do every morning if possible. Sometimes I have meetings and this stretches out, but I try to make it the first thing that I do.
When you are coming up with the story, what kind of formula or hook or angle or kind of contrarian approach are you taking so that your story is riveting and it makes me want to keep reading? It makes me want to keep receiving your emails on a daily basis. What's the secret there?
I don't know if I have a secret of that. Usually it's personal things, not always. And it'll be something immediate. So they know that I garden because, sometimes it'll just be, I did something yesterday in the garden. It's actually, the stories are mundane little things, but and this is something I teach, I call it micro storytelling, is how to take something you did in the last day or two and then relate it to business principles that you want to teach. And so once you practice that, you can connect almost anything to one of those principles that you want to teach. And so today I was like actually sitting in front of the screen for like a few minutes going like, what am I going to write about? But I had just come out of a meeting I meet monthly with a group of PowerPoint experts and with Microsoft and their PowerPoint team, and they show us what they're planning for PowerPoint, and it's always it's a secret. I'm not allowed to talk about it. I'm under a non-disclosure agreement with them. So I just wrote about that, and then I said you should have secrets in your business too, and that's how I got into the intellectual property thing. That your content might be something you get out there, but maybe you have a process or you have a secret source of where you get some great ideas from. Or there's certain things that should be secret. And so then I started talking about intellectual property. Once you get in the habit of it, that it just works. It's not the story so much. It's how you connect it, and you can connect pretty much anything to anything. I've discovered.
And are you finding ChatGPT or Claude or some other LLM to be helpful in the idea generation or in the storytelling or in the formatting or any other aspect of the email newsletters or even just generally the affiliate marketing that you're doing?
Yeah, so I don't use ChatGPT every day in my emails at all. I don't know if you've seen a whole bunch of emails all of a sudden that start, I hope this email finds you well. And I go, oh yeah, ChatGPT did that. So I don't, and to me that reminds me of somebody in the 19th century handwriting an email, putting the pen in the ink bottle and taking it out and writing to somebody that they haven't written to in 6 months, and there's no other means of communication, no phones. And so that's the first thing you say. I hope this email finds you well. But we don't do that anymore. It just seems like so archaic to me. Anyway, so I don't use it for that. But I will use it for ideas of courses. And I have a YouTube video about how to create a course using ChatGPT. It's great for, getting together ideas. And so, in fact, I did a webinar for Training Magazine, and this was a group of corporate trainers, and I was showing them how to use ChatGPT, and I said I gave some principles about using it and prompts and so on like that, and I said, okay, let's do one. We're going to create a course. So I said, I want you to suggest a topic for me. And so they had some topics. They came up with some topics. There were about 1,000 people on this call, and most of them were too sort of general. And I said, I need something more specific. So somebody came up with the history of pumpkins. Don't ask me why. I went, yes, that's because it's very specific. You know, it was going to be a good topic. And so I shared my screen with ChatGPT, and I said, okay, I want to create a course on the history of pumpkins. Give me some 5 possible titles. So it's really great for getting ideas of titles of things. It's like does really well with that. And then you can go back and say, no, I don't like this word, you know, do this, redo it again, you know, until you get what you want. And then I said, okay, so this is our title that I've come up with, that you've come up with, you know, I decided on. And then I said, so what are the different chapters that would be in this course? And it came up with like 15. I said, no, that's too many. I don't want more than 6 chapters. So redo it for 6 chapters, you know, and came up with 6 chapters. And then I said, okay, the first one would be like introductory. So let's take chapter 2 and write 3 paragraphs, you know. Oh, so then I said on that, write some like 3 topics that would be in that chapter. And then I said, so let's take this topic and write me 3 or 4 paragraphs of the actual content for it. So it's a great way to do stuff like that. And you have to check the accuracy of everything and so on like that. But, you know, the history of pumpkins isn't very controversial, you know, and it's not, and it's not, you know, there's not going to be like new things in the history of pumpkins that have changed in the last 2 years, you know. So, you know, I didn't feel like I would have to like really check the accuracy of it that much. And so, yeah, it worked out. That's a really good use of ChatGPT. But people are using it for emails. I just feel like one thing that you can do, I have a blog post on this, is you can tell ChatGPT what style to use. So you can say, I want you to use an educational style. You know, I don't want you to use a promotional style. You know, and it can try to be funny also, which is it's actually funny when it tries to be funny. Little funny odd, you know, when it tries to be funny. But you can tell it to change it. And here's a really cool tip for ChatGPT. You can paste in something that you wrote and tell it to use that style in writing something else. Don't ask me how it does it, but it's actually a creepy experience how it kind of like, that sounds like me. How did that happen? And so, you know, you can get your style a little bit more into it so it doesn't sound awkward and faked.
Yeah. I use that approach a lot. An example, I have a weekly newsletter. It's called my Thursday 3. So it's one thing that intrigued me, one thing that challenged me, and one thing that surprised me. Or yeah, I think it surprised me. So I'll rely on my team to write these for me, draft them for me based on what's in my Readwise reader. So I have an app that stores bookmarks, things that I find interesting, whether they're YouTube videos or blog posts or whatever, and they have access to my account. I used to use Pocket, and I found Readwise Reader to be a superior tool. So I switched recently to that. And so they mine that repository of cool stuff that I've found and come up with the draft newsletter. And usually I don't have to get involved with much of the writing or even editing. They've gotten so good at it. Well, I took a chance at ChatGPT and used ChatGPT instead of my team to write one of the weekly newsletters. I pasted in 3 samples of 3 of my favorite newsletters and said, "Hi, I'm Stephan Spencer. You know, these are 3 of my newsletters. I want you to create a new newsletter in the same style, tone of voice, format, etc. And I want it to be on the topic of," and then I actually gave it the topic of generative AI. I used verbatim the entire newsletter with the exception of, and this fascinating piece by Forbes, or in this book, you know, like it mentioned a couple of content pieces that didn't exist, because that's the nature of ChatGPT and generative AI is it hallucinates, it makes stuff up if it doesn't have anything at hand, it'll just pretend it does. So I just had to, or my team had to swap in some real examples. But other than that, the entire copy was written by ChatGPT. And we did add a PS at the end that said that this newsletter was written all by ChatGPT. It worked really well.
I'll tell you something about links that it does. So I once asked it to give me some quotes on the effectiveness of email marketing and where they came from. And none of the links worked, but I did discover that if I went to the blog of that domain and did a search, I could find what it was talking about. And the way I could find the blog post, it had a different URL and, a different title, but there was something where it said pretty much that was about the effectiveness of email marketing. So I was able to take the right one. And the way I interpreted it was that it knows it's not supposed to copy verbatim because that's copyright infringement. And so it like looks in its, repository of stuff that it's looked at, and it finds something, but then it will add, because it's figuring out what the most likely next word will be, like that's what it's doing. And so the rest of it kind of gets made up, but the actual source exists, just not as it says it is, because it hasn't been copying it verbatim. And we wanted to copy it verbatim, but it's not allowed to do that. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, one fun experiment that we have used multiple times for a client is to use the tone of voice, or instruct ChatGPT to use as its tone of voice Saul Goodman from Better Call Saul. So yeah,
Yeah, you can get some funny results like that, like
yeah,
famous political figures or things like that. Yeah,
it works really well.
it does. It is amazing.
Yeah, and it's going to advance faster than we can shake a stick at, like faster than we can possibly imagine. It's going to get millions of times better. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I'm looking forward to Copilot. You know what Copilot is?
Yeah, why don't you share a bit about that for our listener?
Yeah, so Copilot, so if people don't know, first of all, Microsoft invested heavily in Open.ai, which is the company that makes ChatGPT. And so they kind of have an in there. I think they gave them like $10 billion or something. It was a serious investment. So Copilot is the integration of ChatGPT into Microsoft Office. And so what's different about it, it's not just like that you can put in a prompt and it'll give you an answer like ChatGPT does, but it will create a PowerPoint presentation for you based on your prompt. So you can say something like, there's an example online that I can talk about of, if you look on YouTube, of like planning a trip to France. I think it was something like that. And so you can just put that in the prompt. The prompt is within PowerPoint, and it will create a whole PowerPoint presentation for you. But more than that, it can also use your documents. So you can say, okay, I attended this meeting in Teams, and I want to email to my group of my people in my department or something. They weren't at it. So I want you to take the transcript and write an email summarizing that meeting so I can send it to my department. And it will do that. So it works with your documents, private documents that nobody else has access to. So that's the difference between it. It can write an email from a meeting, or it can create turn a Word document into a PowerPoint, something like that you say, okay, go find this document, that's on my computer or on my OneDrive or wherever, however maybe you have to do it on OneDrive, and then turn that into a PowerPoint presentation. So that's I think a whole leap up in terms of efficiency, because we spend a lot of time taking information and putting it into different formats so that other people can see it, like an email summarizing a meeting or something like that. And if that can be automated, it's amazing.
Yeah. One thing I find kind of annoying is having autopilot or whatever the bot is show up right on time for my Zoom meeting, and then the prospect or the client is 5 minutes late, and I'm just sitting there with its bot and it's going to record every word I say and transcribe it and everything. It's like, where the heck is my meeting? Where's the human that's supposed to show up? That's kind of a bugaboo for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wild world. It's going to be crazy when people are going to get regularly these phone calls from salespeople that are not even human, and they'll be able to have full blown conversations with you to talk to you about, are you interested in selling your home or in buying a home, or have you talked to a lender yet?
I mean, there have been bots like that, chat bots especially, for a long time. I think people are going to get frustrated when they kind of go off. You sort of have to answer yes or no when the person says, well, I don't know, I have to think about it, or maybe, I have yes and a no, and I don't know how it's going to respond to things like.
Oh, you would be amazed. I've heard some demos, and the AI handles that very well. It's like, I can understand your trepidation with talking to a lender when blah blah blah. Like, it's mind blowing. It can really fool somebody into thinking it's human.
I did want to offer somebody a freebie that I have around email, but I do have a little ebook that's called 10 Techniques for Better Results from My Emails. And I'll give you the link. And if that can go with the notes, that would be great.
Yeah, so that would be great to share with our listener.
Yeah, it's a good start of just tips for getting better results from your emails. And it's certainly not all of the things that I do in my email, but then they'll get on my list, and and they can see my emails. They can see what I do, and it's a powerful system for just getting good results from your emails. Especially if you want to be partnering with people.
Now, if you have a course or a series of courses and you want to get affiliate promos happening out there for your courses, what would be a good starting point for a listener? Let's say that they have a course or multiple courses and they're not selling enough. What would you recommend some?
In other words, how they should find partners.
Yeah, how they should find partners, what they should offer the partners, how they should reach out to them and pitch them, what should they uh, do to identify the right partners, any or all of that.
Stefan, that's a whole course in itself. Just that question is a whole course. So I actually, if somebody goes to changetheworldmarketing.com and searches for 5 steps to find partners or something like that, I have a blog post about how to reach out to partners. But in terms of finding the right partners, first of all, most people know who their competitors are and they're on their lists. So you know who you might want to partner with. Somebody maybe who's not a direct competitor, but serves the same target market is great. Sometimes I do promote direct direct competitors. And then other places are on leaderboards, giveaways, and summits. So these are great places to find people who are actively promoting their business and actively partnering. And their names are right up there for you. And so I think that's a great way. I just recently, with a client, showed her a technique on social media. So she has a very narrow niche, and she found a Facebook group like just for her niche for partners, people who are in the same niche as her. And when you go in the group, everybody kind of says, "Hi, I'm new here. Thanks. This is what I do. I'm glad to be here." And I said, "Okay, so you're going to comment on that person's comment, and you're going to say, 'Welcome to the group.' And then you introduce yourself. I'm so and so, and I just started a course, and I'm looking for partners. And then you just keep on doing that. And then I had her write her own comment because she had never done that, saying, 'I'm new in the group, and I'm looking for partners to work with. So we can promote each other. I have a new course that I just had a successful pilot of.'" And so, like within a few hours, she had 8 people who had responded to her. And so if you can find something like that, it's just an easy way. You're offering something. You're not asking, really. But
Yeah.
you have to be willing to promote other people in order to partner. You can't just ask people to promote you. You have to be willing to promote other people.
Right. And you need a list in order to do that.
And you need a list. Yeah. So in terms of that's another whole course, is how to grow your list. But you should be doing that all the time. So you should have some free offer, and you should be promoting that. That should be semi-automated or outsourced so that you're always promoting it. But you can do something called a freebie swap with somebody who who is again serving the same list, and you just promote each other's freebies, and it just grows your list. I mean, it's kind of pretty simple. Actually, they
Yeah,
send an email promoting your freebie, and you do the same, and you get another whatever, however many people you get, and if you do that regularly, your list will grow.
that's a great tip. And speaking of getting people to get onto your list, I have a list. I mentioned my Thursday 3 newsletter. So if you listener want to get on my list and receive that newsletter, which is awesome, and you want a free bonus for doing so, just go to stephanspencer.com/free chapter, and I'll give you chapter 6 of the new edition of The Art of SEO. The fourth edition just came out recently, and we have a whole chapter on AI for SEO, and it's a phenomenal update. But this chapter 6 is on keyword research, so you get that for free.
Great, great. And Stefan is the man for SEO, the expert. So go and get it.
Oh, thank you, thank you. And so, do you have any arrangements with any publishers where you can give away chapters of your book? Because I had to get permission from O'Reilly, our publisher, to give this chapter away.
Right. I don't remember if I ever did that with my main published, with my publishers. I think I just went on for my own stuff, but maybe once they did do something like that. They would have given me permission to do something like that.
Yeah,
When the book sells well, they're kind of willing to. They're open to certain ideas about right because they own the copyright, so you have to get permission from them. Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's a real I don't know, constraint, I guess, to put it in a polite way. When you have a publisher and you can't even, let's say, make your own audiobook and they're not interested in an audio version, you're just stuck. Or if you want to give copies away to, I don't know, let's say an audience of people at a conference, and they're like, well, you can buy them at an author discount of half off. It's like, I'm not spending $2,000 of my own cash on a book that I wrote or co-wrote to give these copies away at a conference I'm speaking at. No, thank you.
So, occasionally you'll be in a situation, not so much a conference, but maybe in-house in a company, and you're training people in a company, and as part of your training proposal, you can include the price in the cost, and so everybody gets a copy of your book, something like that, and so it does.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does
right.
get purchased. So that's something. But you're right, and that's what drives people to publish their own books. It's really an interesting um, dynamic about like which is better and which because a lot of people write books and don't make a lot of money on their books. I mean, I was actually lucky that over the years, three of my books were considered bestsellers, and and they kind of stayed there, not like a flash in the pan, for 1 hour it's on the top of the list, but the AutoCAD book for 2 or 3 years, and the Flash book, it was Flash for Dummies, and that did really well because the first one came out just when Flash was just kind of, becoming really popular. And so I made some money with it, but that doesn't last forever. Books have like a life cycle kind of thing. 17 editions of the AutoCAD book is crazy. It's good, but
That
eventually
is,
it just, died out. And people still ask me for the book. My last book was in 2015, yeah. And people still ask for it because it was like the best book, if I say so myself. And there's nothing quite, well, at least at that time, I haven't really checked lately. There wasn't anything quite like it in terms of being both a reference book and a tutorial. So there would be a reference, and then there would be a little exercise where I had drawings that they could either download. Originally, it was on a DVD in the book, but then it was something they downloaded, and so there were all these drawings that they could work with and do exercises on. And that's a lot of work to put all of that together. So, it worked well for people. But it never lasts forever. So I'm glad I've moved on. What can I say?
One thing that I thought you would be interested to hear about is a tool that's called it's called SparkToro. I don't know if you've heard of it before.
No, I haven't heard of it.
And I was thinking when you were talking about building a list of partners to work with, you would love this tool. It's co-founded by my previous co-author, Rand Fishkin, founder of Moz and founder of SparkToro. So he is pretty famous in the SEO world, Rand is, and this tool is amazing. So you can put in the social media account of a competitor or just a colleague, some influencer, and have it look at the audience that follows that person. And then that audience, you get to see their demographics and psychographics and the websites they visit, the social media accounts they follow, and most importantly, the podcasts they listen to and the YouTube channels they subscribe to. And those would be great sources for potential partners. And this is a unique tool because it's providing information on the audience, not just on the social account.
No, that's a great idea. I mean, definitely it does some of that research. Yeah.
Pretty cool. So I recommend you check that out.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for a fabulous interview and for just being so sharing with your knowledge and experience. And yeah, we'll include the various resources that you've mentioned in this episode in the show notes.
Yeah, and if anybody has a question about email marketing, they can just go to changetheworldmarketing.com and fill out the contact form, or it's easy to find me. So they can, ask me a question. Awesome. I'll be happy to answer.
And if they're looking to partner with you and do some JV stuff, they should contact you too.
They should send me an email. Again, send me an email. And, usually the best way to approach somebody is to offer to promote them first. Like, how can I promote you? I like your work. How can I promote you? And it's very hard to say no to that. So then you create a partner. If somebody says that to me, I'll go, sure. And then if that person does well, yeah, let me promote you back. Absolutely.
It's law of reciprocity.
A lot of reciprocity, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ellen. Thank you, listener. We'll catch you on the next episode. In the meantime, have a fantastic week and create some magic moments in the world, and we'll catch you in the next episode.